Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to CAD Live, episode 93, I think. And I'm joined by a very sprightly-looking Mr. Jack Napier, live from the continental Europe. How are you? You all right?
Doing well. Speaking about continental Europe, restrictions are not being loosened at all.
Whatever.
No, never. They talked about it after elections, but of course, election talk. That's how things go. They wanted to loosen up the curfew, things like that. It's not gonna happen. So we're still stuck in all the restrictions. They had a festival, however, this past weekend.
Legal.
Legal. All the attendees had to have a negative test.
Yes.
About, I don't know how many people, I guess about 1,000, maybe something like that. And the results look good. So they're trying to put something through that when you have a negative test, you can still participate in certain areas. But other than that, lockdown and the curfew is still ongoing.
Fun times indeed. Well, it's still ongoing in the UK. And of course, they've been saying here they've got this roadmap to freedom, if you like. And I don't know why they don't. I don't really know why they need a roadmap. Why don't they just open everything? I mean, that's kind of like, that's all you need to do. But anyway, they're staggering it. So in April, the shops are going to open and the cafes and things like that. And then in May, you'll be able to sit down in pubs and restaurants and things. Well, that was the plan. And then in June, it's supposed to all be back to normal. But now, all of a sudden, I see on Twitter, third wave is trending. And they're saying, there's this third wave, and look at Europe, and look at Italy and Germany and France, and that third wave may come over here. Now, I don't really understand that, because we've also supposedly got the best vaccine rollout in the world. So if we're or in Europe or whatever, so if we're rolling out the vaccines and all the most vulnerable people have been vaccinated, and they're saying that every adult's going to be vaccinated by the summer, then why is the third wave such a big problem?
I have no idea, to be honest. I really have no idea. I keep thinking it's because we have a bunch of and how do I phrase this politically correct? A bunch of scaredy cats in power, where it's like, oh my God, I'm still vulnerable to the virus, and there's a new variant, so let's lock up the entire country. But I mean, with the Brits, the last time your people sought freedom, the United States was founded. So maybe we're going to get a whole new country out of all of this. Who knows?
Well, hopefully so. We'll see what happens. But I mean, it is particularly, I think it's sort of reaching, people are getting fed up with it for sure. And I think more people are getting fed up with it than previously. I think even sort of more regular people are now getting fed up with it. And there's a lot more comment in the newspapers and things like this. So we'll see what happens. But, they don't seem to be wanting to, want to be giving up on this anytime soon. Genuine arseholing says, is this the 86th episode? It's actually the 93rd, I think. I should double check that, but I do think it's the 93rd.
It's a shame it's not the 69th. That would have been amazing.
That was a special episode. The emotionalism of those words, third wave, yes. And Adam says, what's the point of the vaccinations? All the over 50s have pretty much been vaccinated. People's patience is running thin. Exactly. I don't really get it. I mean, they'll just say, well, there's a different variant. I mean, they're talking about the South Africa variant again, but I thought we covered that earlier. They were banging on about it in January. And the other thing is as well, they'll say, well, there's these variants, but we don't think they're more deadly. And also we think that they are still susceptible to the vaccination. So again, what is the problem really?
I really have no idea.
There's too much. It seems like there's too much. Oh, this could happen.
Yes.
There could be a new variant and it could be really bad. So let's keep 66 million people locked up at home for eternity just in case.
Mm-hmm. It's all safety over freedom. Again, we've got over-emotionalized people in power. And I'm not saying they're doing this to hurt us or whatever, but it's that nanny state. Like, oh, you could get hurt. Yes, I could. But I want to take my own responsibility of might getting hurt. So,
Exactly. This touches on some of the stuff we were discussing on Rule Zero at the weekend. Actually, there's just, I don't know, safety has just been prioritized over personal freedom. I think in many different areas, not just this, but this is the most obviously.
Oh no, in a lot of areas. But what would you expect? We now have women in power and feminized men who prioritize safety and security over freedom. So that's going to be the norm.
Yeah, I mean, would you also say it's a bit of a millennial thing?
Aaron Clary was on there, wasn't he?
No, he wasn't. He was briefly. I mean, listen, you're a millennial, aren't you?
I know.
You're not. I wouldn't say you're a typical millennial, but
it hurts to admit.
It's a unfair generalization. But is there something in that? Because it does feel like the millennial generation is particularly sort of, the safe spaces and the trigger warnings and all of this kind of thing. This need for safety at all times.
Yes, I think that the millennials are the manifestation of 50 years of feminism and demasculinization. I think the millennials are like the coup de grace, so to say, of all that, of all the mixture of safety over freedom, feminization, destabilization of the family, you name it. What do you get? The millennials.
Yeah.
That's what you get. Housing market crashing, houses becoming too expensive right now, wages not going up, everything becoming more expensive because of inflation, things like that. Exactly.
And then you get Meghan Markle being interviewed actually in a poverty-stricken South African village with people probably starving and everything around her, going, well, actually, nobody's asked me if I'm all right. Because actually, it hasn't been all right. And it's kind of like it's that sort of thing. It's like that sort of sense of self-victimhood that is so pronounced, and that sense of I am a victim because of whatever it is, and not only that, but you or society should protect me and should throw everything at protecting me. And actually, this kind of leads quite well into today's topic, or the first bit of today's topic, because obviously, we're going through The Art of Seduction by Mr. Robert Greene, wonderful book. And the chapter that we're doing today, two chapters, but Disarm Through Strategic Weakness and Vulnerability, chapter 13. And in a way, this is about showcasing your victimhood, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And funny you bring up Meghan Markle, because she is a grand example of this. Because she wooed a lot of people with that interview, although her ratings went down a bit. But there are plenty of women who still believe her, who look at Meghan Markle and think, "Oh, what a poor young lass. Oh God, she's so oppressed. What she had to endure with the Queen and evil Kate asking her if her child might have black or red hair. How dare she? Poor Meghan." And it speaks to a lot of people. The so-called vulnerability she displayed during that interview. People are very easily persuaded by, this, everybody knows this. As soon as a woman starts crying,
yes,
everybody will help her.
Yes.
And female tears are almost the most powerful weapon next to the nuclear bomb to get something done.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. But it's this incredible thing where you've got this very, very privileged woman who'd married into one of the richest families on the planet and one of the oldest, royal dynasties on the planet, on a primetime TV show, talking incidentally to a billionaire, talking about how much of a victim she was. And people are sitting there. I mean, obviously, loads of people watched it and people have differing opinions, but a load of people were sitting there going, yeah, God, I really feel for you. Meghan, poor, that must have been terrible. When at the same time, you've got people queuing up at food banks because their jobs have gone, their businesses have been lost and everything else. I mean, it really is, when you think about it, it really is surreal, isn't it? But what is perhaps most surreal about it is that how many people bought into it. Now, I'm not saying that her time at the palace was entirely plain sailing. I'm sure that there were things that, she wasn't happy with. Well, obviously there were, blah, blah, blah. Fine. But let's not pretend that she is in any sense some sort of downtrodden victim, because that's just obviously ridiculous.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This is one of those one of those things, and when you listen to the interview and think to yourself what really happened, you can't conclude that it's actually a bad thing that happened to her, because most of her complaining came from, oh, now I have to do these royal things. There is etiquette in here. I don't want to do etiquette. Oh, I have to do things I don't like. That's where most of her complaining came from. But most of the millennial complaining comes from that. I have to work hard to gain success. I know.
Well, it's like, yeah, I mean, what did she expect, really? I mean, it's a job like any. Well, it's effectively it's a job, isn't it? It's a lifestyle. You're marrying into a family, but it's also a job, and that's just what it is. And jobs by nature. I mean, anything, even being a world-class content creator like us, there are bits of it that are. It's not all glamour, like it looks like now. I mean, there are bits of it that are irksome. There are bits of it that are quite mundane and boring, and it's like that with anything. Any job that you have to do. So to cast yourself then as being a victim because of it is a bit rich, really. But a load of people bought it, which is interesting. But in the introduction to chapter 13, so talking about this disarming through strategic weakness and vulnerability, Greene says, too much maneuvering on your part may raise suspicion. The best way to cover your tracks is to make the other person feel superior and stronger. If you seem to be weak, vulnerable, enthralled by the other person, and unable to control yourself, you will make your actions look more natural, less calculated. Physical weakness, tears, bashfulness, paleness will help create the effect. To further win trust, exchange honesty for virtue. Establish your sincerity by confessing some sin on your part. Doesn't have to be real. Sincerity is more important than goodness. Play the victim, then transform your target's sympathy into love. Now, it seems to me that this was really what Meghan was doing, or Meghan and Harry were doing in that interview.
Yeah, exactly. As I mentioned. No, also, guys, as you just heard Robert Greene say, cry more. It's productive.
Yeah, well, okay. I mean, this is one of these chapters where, if you look at this from the prism of, is this going to help me get the girls? Then probably not. Although there are some exceptions to that we can talk about, but in the main, not. But this is a really useful chapter for. Well, you've talked about this book as being a sword and a shield, haven't you?
Yes.
And this chapter is really useful in terms of when you're looking at what, say, the women in your life are doing, or other people in your life maybe using this strategy against you. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is, these principles could be very useful in a political type situation, or when you're trying to influence a mass of people. It's not necessarily going to do you the best favors in terms of a, male-female seduction, but the book's wider than that, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. As you mentioned, like, this book is a sword and shield. And when it comes to women, again, female tears, if you want to get something done, the only thing more powerful is the nuclear option. Because as soon as a woman cries, everybody believes her. False allegations, as she cries, everyone will believe her. Most guys, when their girlfriend or whatever their date starts crying, what does he do? Please don't cry, I hurt you, blah, blah, blah. It affects us. Now, when you're a guy like you and me, when a girl starts crying, you kind of know what's going on. It's like, no, I know what you're doing. You're crying to get your way. I don't know if you've ever did this, but I did. When a girl started crying, and I just called her out on it. I'm like, I'm not buying it. She stopped. She stopped crying. I was like, nah, I'm not buying that. Like, don't even try.
Wow.
Well, she stopped crying. I was like, I know what you're doing. You're like, the situation, yes, is bad, but it's not that bad. And you are not the victim in the situation. You did it yourself. You made your own choices. And no, I'm not having pity with you. But not everybody knows how to handle that. By the way, go read The Manipulated Man by Esther Villar. She talks about that.
Good book.
But not every guy is capable of that, because you're emotionally attached to her. Like, again, the girl who I said that to, it's not like I didn't like her or anything. Like, we spent 1.5 years together. But those tactics are familiar to me. So I know when they're being played on me. And this chapter is very well to inform you on a certain tactic that can be played upon you.
Yes, absolutely. And this is something that actually men are very, like you say, susceptible to, aren't we? Because, and some men I think are more prone to it than others, because there are men who they like to be a rescuer. They like to take in the wounded bird sort of thing. And there's that nurturing aspect. Women actually have this as well, but guys certainly have this. And people can manipulate that. People can portray themselves in a certain way in order to pull the wool over your eyes in some way, in order to lure you in some way. So you've got to be mindful of this. You've got to be cognizant of it, because like you said, it works really bloody well. And of course, Meghan is a good example of that.
Did Meghan actually cry, by the way?
In the interview, the Oprah interview? I probably. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm sure she did at some point. She certainly she was certainly very dramatic during the interview, wasn't she? There was certainly a lot of pauses and sort of, it was as if it was very difficult for her to talk about these terrible experiences and things. That was the thing, though. Like you said, I didn't really get to the root of what the terrible experiences were. Not within the family. There wasn't really much concrete. I mean, I get it. She's got a gripe with the media because she felt that the media were, targeting her, which, maybe there's some truth in that. But within the family itself, apart from the comment that supposedly somebody made about the skin color of the child, there wasn't really a lot of substance in terms of what she was actually complaining about.
No, I mean, most of it was just like, oh, there are formalities in the most royal of royal families in the world, and I don't want to abide by them. That was most of it.
Yes. Or she had to Google the national anthem. I mean, I don't know the bloody words, all the words to the national anthem. I mean,
I even know "Oh Britannia." Not all of it, but I know "Oh Britannia," like the "We will never be a slave again" things like that. Yeah. I know that. Come on.
We've got Tavton in the chat saying a former rescuer here. Absolutely, we can all fall prey to this. We really, really can.
Yep.
So play the victim. Give an impression of weakness. Now, the thing that struck me when I was reading this, I thought about the film The Usual Suspects. You remember that movie with Kevin Spacey?
I've heard of it, but I've never seen it.
Well, people maybe in the chat or watching this, if you're watching on the replay, thank you for tuning in. If you're watching live, thumbs up. Good to see you. People may know the film The Usual Suspects with Kevin Spacey and a cast of other great actors. Fantastic movie, made in the 90s, well worth watching. Really, really great. And without giving too much of a spoiler here, what you get is the Kevin Spacey character presenting as somebody who's incredibly weak, incredibly downtrodden, and incredibly kind of stupid, really, and no capabilities, etc., etc. And through the course of the film, it becomes apparent that that's actually not the case at all, and he ends up playing everybody with this act of weakness. So that I think is a really good illustration of this. But again, this is something that you want to play maybe in a political situation or a situation where, I mean, you can do something like this if you get into an HR position with a company, for example. You can, because a lot of the cards that people will play in terms of, I don't know, say identity politics, or that person was bullying me or something like this, you can play those same cards. So if you're, say, you're working a corporate job and you get into some sort of situation where somebody is victimizing you there, you can pull the cards on them. You can make out that you're the victim and go to your HR department and basically screw them over and even take them for money. I mean, this is something that you can do. So you have to remember that these tactics that you might see people using in the sort of the woke sphere or and so on and so forth, they are also available for you to use. So there's that to bear in mind. But as I say, in terms of romantic sexual relationships, I don't think this stuff's going to do you any favors, is it?
No, not in the over-the-top way Robert describes it in the book. There is one way a guy can use his vulnerability in a seductive manner. And especially guys like you, by the way.
What do you mean?
Well, you kind of have a dark past. with
well, present.
I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But that is not something you wear on your sleeve, so to say, or throw on the table at the first date.
Yeah, exactly.
But a girl's gonna notice. A girl's gonna notice certain holes in stories, certain references where she's like, "What's up with this guy?" Like, there's something.
Yes.
I mean, with my youth and all that, like, I don't mention everything at all at once. And then a girl starts to get interested. Like, something happened to him, but I don't know what.
Who hurt you?
Yeah, well, exactly. Who hurt you? The world. You create, you get her intrigued by that, but not wearing it on your sleeve, but more the subtlety of referencing that there is more to you than meets the eye, so to say.
Yeah.
And then later on, you can discuss it a bit. I mean, for some odd reason, chicks love it. Like, the broken bad boy.
Exactly.
But she needs to know that you're broken. But that comes with tact, so to say.
Subtlety.
Bingo.
Subtlety. But you've also got to be the bad boy first and foremost. So this is where people go wrong, because it doesn't work if you lead with this. You know, if you lead with like, oh my God, I've been so punished by the world, I'm so downtrodden. That's not going to come across as sexy. But if you come across as the quote unquote bad boy figure, or the, you know, you've got some panache, you've got some verve and, you know, sort of energy about you. But then underneath that, she can sense that there's something a little bit more, that maybe you have been vulnerable in the past. That can become kryptonite, but it doesn't work on its own. And because he says here, a person's vulnerability, what they seem to be unable to control, is often most seductive about them. People who display no weaknesses, on the other hand, often elicit fear, envy, and anger. We want to sabotage them just to bring them down. And somewhere else, he talks about guys. Oh, yeah, he says, a woman may be attracted to a man's strength and self-confidence, but too much of it can create fear, seeming unnatural, even ugly. Particularly intimidating is the sense that the man is cold and unfeeling. She may feel insecure that he is only after sex and nothing else. And that's the classic thing that you get when you come across as too much of a player, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. That's the whole serotonin dopamine thing. Like,
yes.
Too much alpha will scare her away. It might get you through the door, but you kind of want to stay there. So comfort tests. We talked about those before. Like, there are shit tests and comfort tests. The comfort tests are more like, okay, the guy's tough, but when shit goes down, can he provide in a, let's say, non-kick-ass manner?
Yes. So he talks in this about Lord Byron, the British poet, and he says that Byron basically had this intimidating aura because he was really famous. He was sort of like the rock star of his day. This was in the 18th century. His reputation preceded him as being a seducer, as being a rake, coming from this very wealthy background, being this great artist, this great writer, having had loads of sexual conquests. So he was known to be a player, basically. But then Greene says when women met him in real life, he would come over as being quite bashful and quite shy and quite sort of vulnerable in some ways. And so the contrast between how he'd been advertised and then the reality, that got women really intrigued. Because they thought, oh my God, this is amazing. Because I've met this like amazing Lord Byron. And it seems like he's got this softer side as well. And they really, really loved that. But what's important about that is you need to also have the front. You know, like if you're Justin Bieber, we talk about this a lot, don't we? If you're a celebrity, if you're Justin Bieber, and you can kind of get away with being soft and sensitive because she's going to think, oh my God, here's Justin Bieber. And he's a massive star, but he's also soft and gentle as well, and that's really fascinating. If you're a regular dude, not so much. No,
absolutely. And probably like if you see Justin's girlfriend, she's got to be cheating with the pool boy. In all honesty, like how he hangs on her like she is his mommy. It's just
he's married though, isn't he? He's married now.
Yeah, something like that. But I mean, marriage never prevented anyone from banging the pool boy, I guess. I mean, in all honesty,
that poor boy must be exhausted.
there's only one in the world, by the way. It's always the same pool boy.
The same guy who's also the dude at the phone party in Cancun.
Well, they've never been in the same room. So, who knows?
I might go to Cancun soon. Actually, maybe I can actually go. Maybe I can actually go to one of these mythical phone parties.
You should. You should tweet it, and tag Rolo. Wish you were here.
Yeah. Amazing. I need to do that. I need to get to that phone party. Again, I always think about Robbie Williams with this. Now, I don't know if that's becoming a little bit of an old reference now for some of the Gen Z viewers who are avidly watching this, trying to work out how to get their dating lives on point. But Robbie Williams, very famous British rock star, and for a few years, pop star, and for a few years, he was absolutely loved. I mean, he was the number one guy that all the women in the country just fancied. You know, he was just they just went mental for him. And he had this kind of tough, cheeky sort of exterior. He was a bit of a lad. He was a bit of a bad boy. But there was also always this sense of vulnerability about him. And he would talk in interviews about his problems with addiction and alcoholism. And he'd talk about how he loved his nan and how his nan had died and how sad he was about that. And he would talk, you know, he all these problems that he's had throughout his career and life, problems with his weight, problems with sort of fear and paranoia and problems with relationships until, I mean, he's married now and he's got kids, but, you know, before that. And that seems to me a kind of a guy who does it really well because, you know, he's also a guy with tattoos on his knuckles and, you know, this sort of pop star kind of presence about him, but there's clearly something vulnerable as well. And if you can get the two together, that can work really, really well.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely. But it's hard to play off. It's hard to play off because you need to kind of get the reputation of being a tough guy, but you need to be able to downplay it as well when you get in those certain seductive situations. By the way, did you see the picture?
I did. Yeah. Hang on one second. Let's see if we can. Pull it in. Here we go.
Like he's your age.
Well, he is actually. Yes. And that is a fantastic. That's a fantastic suit, isn't it? If people can see that.
You would rock that.
Mate, I would love to wear that. I mean, everything about Robbie, to be honest, I'm a fan, really. I mean, I've sort of, you grow up with these people and, I mean, you know, he's kind of, I don't know, he's doing his thing now. He's married, he's got kids, blah, blah, blah. But he's still got that kind of, there's just something about him that is a little bit unpredictable. You just don't know what he's going to say next, what he's going to do next, etc., etc. And yeah, it's a cool suit, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely need to get that for a Rule Zero episode.
John would be so jealous.
Exactly. Yeah. So what we saying? So I think if you can pull it off, but you need to have the other bit first. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
Yeah, the other bit can be done with exterior. The tough guy presence can be done with exterior, with body language, facial expression, clothing, even things like that.
Yes.
And then a lot of girls might think, "Oh, he's such a badass." Like what? Ooh, ooh.
I think you can combine the two things actually, because you can, by the way that you conduct yourself, by the way that you speak, by the way that you walk, you can sort of show that you're a bit of a lad. But then you can very quickly bring in those little elements of vulnerability as well. I've seen guys do this. Some of the TV, like reality TV personalities we have over here, we get these kind of Essex guys. I don't know if you're familiar with this phenomenon. Essex is a county just outside London, and it's quite famous in Britain for being full of, don't even know how to put it really, guys who like to party, guys who are sort of, guys and girls who like to party, who are got a bit of money, very fashionable, good looking.
Phone cannon party of England.
Exactly. Yeah, the whole place is just one big phone party. And there are guys that I can think of within that some guys within that space who do have this thing, who do have this combination of, on the one hand, being what we would call a bit of a lad, you know, one of the boys, a little bit of a player, a little bit like, you know, you're all right, love, you're all right. But they've also just got that sense of something vulnerable. I think you can combine the two things together, but it takes you've got to know what you're doing, I think, is the thing. It's easy to mess up.
It is, especially when you go too quick. When you get too vulnerable too quick. The vulnerability usually comes later on. So let's say you're seducing a girl, blah, 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 blah. You get into the game sense first. So it's kind of muse mastery, kind of negging a bit, kind of blah, 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 blah. Back and forth, flirting, can she throw down, you name it.
Yeah.
Get a bit of back and forth. Later on, she kind of gets the teasing sense, like a guy like you, blah, blah, blah. And then maybe you drop a bit of a hint, like, a guy like me? No, I'm very sensitive, blah, blah, blah. And she's still in that gamey sense where it's like, oh, is he effing with me? And you're like, no, like, I don't know.
I think actually, I think this is something that I've done actually in my own life and in my own dating life. But it's one of those things that it's so hard. It's a very hard thing to teach, and it's very hard to really almost break down in a way. But actually, this is why we're going through this book, because Robert Greene. This is one of those things that I think I was doing anyway, and then I read Robert Greene, and he just describes it so well.
It's funny when that happens. Yes. I've had that with the Rational Male a couple of times. Like, hey, I remember this. And now he puts it in the words. Like, the first thing that comes to mind, though, with this is pillow talk. If you know what I mean. Like, after you've done what you wanted to do, that's when most guys get vulnerable. And she kind of wants to know you better, where it's like, oh, come on, girl. Like, I already got what I wanted. Then all of a sudden she gets to know you. It's so that's how this works.
Exactly.
But even then, you don't want to go full out.
No,
you don't want to blabber all your emotions and feelings about her. It's like, just pillow talk.
It's got to be subtle. He says here, a glimpse of shyness is sufficient. Too much of it, and the target will despair, afraid she's going to have to end up doing all the work. Which I suppose, in a romantic sense, you could translate into saying she's afraid that you're not man enough. You know, she wants, because ultimately she still wants you to be the apex alpha or whatever, right? And somebody said in the chat earlier, it's you kind of. Do I agree with this or not? Somebody said in the chat earlier, you need to show that you've overcome your weaknesses, though. You've overcome your difficulties. I sort of agree with that, and I sort of don't, because I think I know what he means, but I think somebody like Robbie, you could tell there was there were demons, you know? There's something troubled there. And I think that even if that's an ongoing thing, that can still be attractive. But also he's a massive rock star. So it's sort of like, he's clearly on some level got his life together, or at least he's making waves in the world. So she wants to see you capable of making waves in the world, but your vulnerability can be ongoing, and that can draw out in her this almost maternal sense, really, where she wants to look after you, and that can be a really nice thing, because then you have this nice dynamic where you guys have got a great sexual relationship, but also she's almost like nurtures you and looks after you as well, and that can be really nice.
No, it can, absolutely. And like you mentioned, it's something in their behavior. Like I mentioned before, guys who had a troubled past, for some reason, even though they've gone through therapy and they've overcame it, they carry it with them. You can see it in people. Even though they don't wear it on their sleeves, there's just something that they radiate, exuberate. What's the word? It's just something where you notice that, okay, that person has been through a lot. He's carrying something with him. It's not controlling him, but it's still with him.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm making sense, by the way. Maybe I sound like a hippie. Maybe this is the last time people will see me on this channel. Who knows?
I'm just trying to find some lyrics here. But no, absolutely. It's such a subtle thing. And it's very easy to get this wrong. And so it's almost like, I mean, do you think this is actually something that can be taught? Or do you think this is just something that some guys have got and they can capitalize on it versus some guys some guys who can't. There's a Robbie Williams lyric here from the song "Feel," and of course, the other thing, if you're Robbie or you're a singer or a songwriter, then the work that you're putting out is also doing some of the job for you, because the songs that you sing are communicating to people that you've got this, this other side to you. And the song "Feel," which people may know, really good track of his, he goes, "There's a hole in my soul, you can see it in my face. It's a real big place," which I thought was appropriate then after what you were saying, because you can see it in my face. There's a hole in my soul, and that's the thing, isn't it? There are some people where that is just present and people can just tell. So I don't know if it's something that a guy should pretend to have if they haven't got it.
That is a very good question. Can this be taught? In all honesty, I don't think it can. I am not going to be the guy who's going to say, hey, you know what's attractive? A guy who overcame a drug addiction. So you know what you're supposed to do? It's like, let's not
get on the smack. Come on, yeah. What are you doing?
And then get off it. Then you have it.
Get on it, get off it. And here's my Gumroad course that will teach you how. Don't try that at home, viewers.
No. Don't do that. Don't do that. But that's how you get the edge. $9.97.
You're right. I think it's one of those. Yes, this is actually kind of, we're joking, but this is actually kind of what I talk about in CAD Academy, because I will say in CAD Academy, the way that I started to behave differently in social situations was actually because I was going out and partying a lot, and I was doing all these substances and drinking and all this. And then I'll say, but you don't have to do that, because that's obviously not a good way to run your life. But these are some of the realizations that I had, and if you can get those mindsets, then that's going to take you to that same place. But yeah, I think if you're lucky enough to be just a really well balanced guy, and you've had a very just regular childhood, and everything's been reasonably happy and everything, I don't think that you should invent neuroses to try to make you more attractive, because those guys have probably got something else that's attractive about them. They're coming from a very stable place, and that's attractive, but in a different way, probably. So they should
No, they're going to stay virgins. Stable family? Nobody wants that. Nobody wants a stable family. Everybody wants to be effed up.
Maybe it kind of comes back to the bad boy thing, because of course the bad boy, this archetypal bad boy, who may or may not be the guy in the phone party in Cancun that all the girls seem to like. Well, why is he a bad boy? Well, probably because some fairly effed up things happened to him in the past, right? So there's a sort of convergence there, isn't there, I guess?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Might be a bit of a nerdy example right here, but you're not wrong, by the way, when you say stable guys can be attractive too. Again, bit of a nerdy example. Iron Man, Tony Stark, Captain America, Steve Rogers. I don't know if you're familiar with the whole Marvel Avengers thing.
Not massively, I'm afraid. But okay. Carry on.
So, Tony Stark is the entrepreneur, philanthropist, playboy, billionaire. Bit of a bad boy himself, had a bad relationship with his father, had a drinking problem, you name it. Yeah. So he kind of has the natural aloofness, natural amuse mastery. Steve Rogers, on the other hand, came from a good family, fought hard for what he wanted, protect the weak, and you name it, whatever. I mean, total Chad. Total Chad. But that's where you get that stability versus excitement kind of thing. And yes, both can work, but like the one can't be the other. Like, Tony Stark can't be Steve Rogers. Steve Rogers can't be Tony Stark. But they both have certain things. And this chapter might not necessarily be for someone to look what can help him become more attractive, but might help him understand why women are attractive to that certain type as well. Yeah. I've had that in the past where like an ex-girlfriend cheated on me and I'm like, why the hell with that guy? Seriously, you're going back to the guy who cheated on you 3 times? And then you kind of read Greene's work and Rollo's work, and then you're like, okay, now I understand. I'm not like that, but I understand why.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to think of some TV series I used to watch when I was in my youth. It might have been Beverly Hills 90210 or something like that. But there is a sort of an archetypal character that you get in those high school those high school sort of dramas. And actually, I think to bring it up to date, or sort of up to date, is Gossip Girl as well. I don't know if you've ever seen that. I was subjected to that many times by my girlfriend, and in that you've got a character called Chuck Bass, who is actually a really good actor, really a British actor actually.
I've heard of him. I've heard of him. My ex told me about him. She's like, every time I see him, it reminds me of you. I'm like, oh, good.
Really, you should watch it. Like, actually, seriously, because my girlfriend was a massive fan, and she was getting me to watch all these episodes of Gossip Girl, and it's actually quite. It's one of those things. It's actually quite a bit of a guilty pleasure. It's actually quite good, but he's an interesting character because he's definitely that character with that darker side, and he's the one that all the girls want. And I'm thinking of this older character. I think it might have been from 90210, who was like the kid in class who was, had a problem with drugs. He was sort of like, there was always this vulnerability about him. But the girls were like, oh my God, whatever his name was, he's so vulnerable, and they felt this need to almost nurture him and protect him, and it can be hugely attractive. But you've also got to have the other bits. You've got to have the bad boy bit. You've got to have a bit of swagger as well. You've got to have a bit of panache about you as well. Otherwise, it's going to. If you're just a complete victim, then you're just going to get left in the dirt.
Yeah, nobody will like you. It's kind of the what's his name again? Rebel Without a Cause. What's his name?
James Dean.
James Dean. Great example.
That was actually I was going to mention him actually because before that's another one, isn't it? And that's a really classic archetypal example of this.
Mm-hmm. Always in trouble with his parents, doesn't feel loved, whatever. Just gets in his motorcycle with his leather jacket and screw the world. I'll make my own way because nobody wants me. Like, it's not because he wants to be free; it's because he feels nobody wants him. But again, it's that. A girl will see that, but doesn't know what's happening. Like, he wants to be free. Why? What happened to him? But he'll never tell. Maybe later on, when he's ready to let someone close.
Of course, it really helps if you're a Chad as well. I mean, let's be honest. Obviously, if you're like, but because they kind of want the whole package, don't they? They kind of would. If you're 6 foot and 6'6". You're a Nordic looking Chad with an amazing six-pack and blah, blah, blah. And you've got this other aspect to you as well. Then obviously then you're really lighting the blue touch paper. Then it's like, whoa, it's really, really potent. But, that's not to say this doesn't work for regular guys as well. Because as Mr. Thompson says here, women are repulsed by boring men. It's very true, isn't it? So it's
the opposite of love is not hate. It is indifference.
Exactly.
So yeah, never be boring. Like, you can annoy her, you can piss her off, you can make her angry, but never be boring. Like, boring is a death sentence.
Exactly. By the way, guys, if anybody watching's got any questions or comments or anything you want us to cover, just stick it in the chat and we will get to it. Because I'm kind of thinking now, we've actually ended up talking about this particular bit for longer than I thought. So we could possibly just do this one today, couldn't we? And then do the next one on another day. What do you think?
I'm agreeing with you because this is just such an interesting chapter.
Yeah, more than I thought it was going to be, actually, to be honest. But there is actually quite a lot in this, isn't there? Mm-hmm. He also says there's also a bit about becoming feminine, actually, which he talks about elsewhere in here. I think we've already covered this. And basically what he's saying is that male seducers learned long ago to become more feminine, to show their emotions and to seem interested in their targets' lives. So again, there is this sort of thing. And, I don't think anybody watching this, thinks, oh, right, I'm going to go and become really feminine and that's going to sort out my dating life. It's not as simple as that. But there's this sense of getting under. If you can combine these traits in a subtle way, it can be really, really powerful. And guys think, a lot of guys in this space think the only way to be successful, you've just got to be that 2D alpha. You've got to be the 6 foot tall guy. You've got to have huge muscles, probably a massive beard, shaved head, and that guy is just going to kill it in every scenario. And that's just not true, is it?
No, absolutely not. I mean, how do I phrase this? Men tend to reflect their methods of attraction on women. As in, men are very visual. We are. To be very honest, men have an image of peak masculinity as well, like the Apollo, Adonis, things like that. Those were created by men. That is the prime example of what a man should look like by male standards. But women don't operate like that. Of course, at a certain phase in their cycle, they do tend to look for the sexy genes. It's like the sexy sun theory with t-shirt test and things like that. But they're also looking for security. They're looking for long-term prospect. Now with online dating and hookup culture, yes, if you're a Chad, things like that, and you time it right, you can get loads of success. But ask me how I know, it's not always long-term success.
But as well, though, John will often talk about K-pop bands. You know, John MLD will talk about, look at K-pop bands. The guys in those bands, and actually, when you look at male celebrities in general that are marketed to women, and these guys are really hot, you know, and they're marketed in that way, they don't tend to be the sort of Hulk-like men that people in the sphere would have you believe are the guys who are killing it. They tend actually to be pretty slim, pretty lean, and not really that sort of archetype that guys will bang on about in the manosphere.
Yes, and that's because of a multitude of reasons. First, women don't know what they want. Let's start there. Women don't even know what women want. Which is, funnily enough, is actually pretty true. Because, again, that all depends on what their mood is at that point. Simon Thompson put it best when he said, the guys they're pushing forward right now are very effeminate. But women tend to go with what's popular as well. But genetics is undefeated. The reptile brain is undefeated. Even though women will say, and I mean, isn't that what the manosphere is based on? Never believe a thing she says. Women might say she wants stability, but on Friday night when she's on Tinder and she sees a hot guy with abs passing by who's just wearing his jeans, she's going to swipe right on him because that reptile hindbrain is activated right at that point.
Well, Adam says young girls go for feminine, pretty boys, women go for masculinity. So yeah, that's an interesting thing. But it depends how old we're talking about, doesn't it? Really, though, if she's some old boiler and she's into masculinity, well, that's fine. But is that your target audience, really?
No, but I mean, that's a yes and no as well. Again, like there is no be all end all in this. Why do you think Chris Hemsworth is so popular? Even with the younger girls, like I remember growing up with the Avengers and things like that. When you ask the girls who's your favorite Avenger, it'd either be Loki or who is actually Tom Hiddleston isn't the peak masculine guy either.
Yeah.
You know Tom Hiddleston, right?
Yeah.
Like
British guy,
he's got the very slim attire as well. Or Chris Hemsworth, Thunder from Down Under, the guy who plays Thor with arms thicker than his head. I'm not kidding. Have you seen those guys' arms? They're bigger than your... My God, man. But those were the two. And so there's not really a pin you can point in what women want in general when it comes to physicality. Of course, a couple of things. Don't be overweight. I mean, let's be clear on that. If you're overweight, you're pretty much fucked.
Yeah, I mean, there is no market for overweight, is there? Or if there is, it's very niche and not one that you want to be
for overweight men. That is, there's no market for overweight men. They're trying to men are disgusting sometimes. It's like we fuck anything. My God, man. By God, man, have some standards.
Speak for yourself. I'm
High quality man.
Exactly. I will only allow high quality women to enter into the inner sanctum.
And with high quality, we mean thin. That's kind of all it needs, all it takes.
Wow, absolutely. I just see what Svetan. Where are you based, Svetan? By the way, he says, any ideas how to improvise in the following situation during day game? Very often, local girls say, "Oh, he's sorry." I've asked him. He's in Bulgaria. He says in the bloody question. Often, local girls say, "Oh, and finish talking after I answer where I'm from. I'm from Bulgaria, living in Munich." So they're not bothered. So they're not keen, apparently, because he's from Bulgaria. So would you lie about it, Jack, or should he avoid it, or what do you think?
No, I just go with it. Like the response is, "Oh, and then you just ask, "Have you ever been there?" It's like, "Oh no, I haven't." Well, what do you know about Bulgaria? And then you start asking them questions a bit about Bulgaria, because are they really turned off by it, or is that your interpretation of their response to you? That's what I'm wondering. I mean, I know we can't all have sexy accents like Troy and me. I know, but you got to roll with it. So, to be honest, Svetan, is it your interpretation of their reaction, or did you ask them more about their opinion about Bulgaria? Because Bulgaria seems pretty awesome, to be honest.
It does, but is he saying that there's a sort of some underlying prejudice against people from Bulgaria in Munich, which perhaps there might be, because to be frank, I think I've heard something of that kind in the UK with people from Bulgaria and people from Romania, which is completely, bollocks. Obviously, I don't know why people think that, but if they do, and it's a minority, I would say. But is that what he's saying? I mean, one thing you could do is when she says, "Where are you from?" you could say, "Oh, well, I live in XYZ," and you could tell her, whatever area of town you're living in. You could just mention that, and then just say, "Oh, but I've kind of moved around a bit," and sort of evade the question of, "I'm from this specific country." Maybe that would work. I'm not in favor of really lying to people, but
No.
But at the same time, you could sort of push it away for a bit. You don't have to reveal everything in the first instance. I mean, in London, there's a lot of people who come from all over the world, and people might say, "Where are you from?" And they might tell you the area in London first, and then you have to dig a bit more to find out the country. So you could try and do that if you like, and see if that helps at all.
I never actually say where I'm from. At least used to say where I'm from. When they asked, I just like, "Well, where do you think I'm from?" And they never guessed the Netherlands. I wonder why.
You actually sound quite British to me, though.
I know. I don't know where I got it from, in all honesty. I just started talking English, and this is what came out. I grew up watching The Simpsons.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know.
He says it's 50-50. Sometimes I make it up in my head, but sometimes it's clear the girls are not happy with my origin. I mean, that happens because, for various reasons, people just have these weird prejudices and things. I would try not to lead with it. I try and just maybe defer the question until a bit later on. I mean, once she's into you, it shouldn't matter anyway, right?
He's oppressed. We feel
that Simpsons. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's a Mr. Burns accent. He's release the hounds.
Oh yeah, Mr. Burns used to be one of my favorite characters. Like, excellent, but he doesn't sound British either. Like, none of them do, actually. I don't even know. Was there?
Well, I don't know if there's a British character. They may have joked. They may have had some joke British characters on there. I know Family Guy have. Well, the baby in Family Guy Stewie sounds British, doesn't he?
Stewie sounds a bit British, and they also have the weird British character with the giant underjaw.
Yeah. They'll bring in. There's a really good episode when they go to Britain. It's something. What happens? It's like Peter joins an American football team, and then they go to play a game in England against this British team called the Super Nannies or something. He joins the Patriots, and they go to Britain to play against the Super Nannies, and it's quite a good piss take of the British, basically, and the British accents and everything.
Nice.
Yeah. But apparently, Who wrote it? Scott McFarlane. Apparently, Scott McFarlane is a real Anglophile. He loves Britain. He loves British culture, Monty Python, all that stuff. So
as he should.
Absolutely. But anyway, we digress. So yeah, what else is there to say here? He says just towards the end, in social and political situations, seeming too ambitious or too controlled will make people fear you. It's crucial to show your soft side. The display of single weakness will hold a multitude of manipulations. Emotion or even tears will work here too. Well, don't know about the tears, but there might be something in that in a corporate situation, right? You might want to keep your powder dry a little bit. You might not want to advertise the fact that you're this ruthless, ambitious person. What do you think about that?
Agreed. Those are, again, this chapter is very applicable to, let's say, politics, office culture, whatever. You don't want to be a hard-ass boss all the time. And even when you, let's say, have a sit down with your boss or whatever, it's not bad to every now and then show you actually have feelings, so to say. I heard that from a former coworker of mine who got rejected from a promotion because he answered wrong on the question when the last time was he cried.
Oh,
not kidding. I wish.
So what did he say?
What did he say again? That he couldn't remember or something like that, and they thought that was unempathic.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Sounded like it was really weird. So it's in those situations where you're trying to sound bluntly, where you're trying to get something from someone in a situation like that, it's okay to not be a hard ass.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there is sympathy for people. I mean, for some reason, I'm thinking about when Boris Johnson went into hospital because he had coronavirus. And, I'm not saying go and get coronavirus, but don't do heroin either. Health.
I had corona. Chicks
well,
didn't.
now?
No, not now. No. A while back, but girls didn't show up, fortunately, so it doesn't work.
Oh, okay. But well, I mean, so sympathy can work in your favor, is what I'm saying. Basically, don't get corona. Don't do heroin. Health warning comes with this episode of the show. But yeah, you know that sort of seemed to, and I think actually even Trump as well. When Trump got it, there was sympathy towards him, wasn't there? I'm not saying they did it. I'm not saying they did it deliberately or anything like that. But it just shows that sometimes when you are vulnerable, that can actually pull people up, and even people who are perhaps your enemies will be like, oh, actually, So it is a card you can play. It is a card you can play.
Do you think that's why Biden fell down the stairs this weekend?
Yeah, maybe.
I want sympathy from my enemies.
Maybe, absolutely. So the symbol here, he has a symbol for each of these chapters, and he talks about the blemish here. A beautiful face is a delight to look at. Thank you. But if it is too perfect, it leaves us cold and even slightly intimidated. It's the little mole, the beauty mark that makes the face human and lovable. Okay, so that kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
And then he has the reversal. So what is bad about this? What's wrong? And really, the reversal that he talks about, it boils down to don't be too needy. And he talks about the 17th century courtesan Ninon de L'Enclos liked men with a soft side, but sometimes she's a woman. Sometimes a man would go too far, complaining that she did not love him enough, that she was too fickle and independent, that he was being mistreated and wrong. For Ninon, such behavior would break the spell and she would quickly end the relationship. Well, Ninon and every other woman on the planet, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like the women hate neediness.
Yes.
Women hate dependence. Like from her kids, she can tolerate it. But from her man, absolutely not.
Yeah. Complaining, whining, neediness, and actively appealing for sympathy will appear to your targets not as charming weakness, but as manipulative attempts at a kind of negative power. So when you do play the victim, do it subtly without over-advertising it. I mean, I would go further than that. I think for women, it becomes repulsive.
Yes.
Unfortunately. If you play the victim in that sort of situation, it becomes repulsive. It's just not going to work. That's not how you... Because when you think about it, when you think about the James Dean character, okay? Mm-hmm. So he might, he's a tough guy, he's a cool guy on the surface, but he's got those vulnerabilities underneath. But if he gets screwed over in a relationship, he's just going to walk because, like you said before, he's the guy. He's playing by his own rules, and he's just going to, he's going to walk his own path. So the vulnerability is fine, but you don't want to have the vulnerability specifically in regard to the woman and the relationship, because if you do, then you're likely to lose out.
Well, yeah, absolutely. You need to keep that not giving a damn attitude. Use it or lose it. Is that the one? The use it or lose it attitude, or whatever it is. Comply or goodbye, sort of say. Like, honey, you're either in or you're in the way.
Yes, ejaculate and evacuate. No, that's something different.
Well, that too. that too, yeah. Absolutely.
Well, look, we're just about on the hour now, so it's been a good show. Actually, it's been interesting. I didn't think we'd talk about this chapter for so long, but there's some quite interesting stuff in this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I hadn't talked to you in a while, and that's when I get talk heavy. It's like, oh man, getting to talk to Troy again. It's been a while, and then, well, that's when we get these things. So I hope the people enjoyed.
Absolutely. Fleeting Apparition says, how would one invoke a woman's nurturing instincts without undermining themselves with displays of neediness? Well, it's a balancing act, isn't it? But women like to look after their man. This is the thing. I mean, women do like to look after their man. So you can still you get this even in stories of old when you had guys going into battle and all of that. And then the woman, she bathes him and she looks after him and everything like that. So it doesn't mean you don't become just a babified beta schlub. You retain your edge, but you just demonstrate subtly that there's also this more vulnerable side as well. And, that's it. But it's a balancing act and it takes experience.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And as you mentioned, it is a natural thing to women to want to take care of. I know that's very politically incorrect to say nowadays. But
I don't even think it is really, because I'm not saying it. I don't mean it in the sense of, oh, so she has to do all the housework and everything. It's not even like that. It's just that she wants to be there for you. She wants to be nurturing for you and everything. And that's not because she thinks you're weak. It's because she recognizes that you're strong, but she also recognizes that she can help to support you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you've ever had a woman love you, you will know there will come a point that you are annoyed by the fact that she wants to take care of you. That will happen. At least I've had that. It's like, no, honey, I'm fine.
Especially if you are somewhat independent and actually you kind of like, and you don't actually want to feel too sort of, yeah.
Yeah,
but then maybe that's why it happens, because the less that you need it, or the less that you sort of appear to need it, the more that she's perhaps going to want to give it to you, because she's not going to give that away for free. So you've got to show your value as well. Anyway, so look, what are you up to this week, and where can they find you?
Well, tomorrow, 3 p.m. Amsterdam Central European Time, I'm having James Tusk on.
When? Tomorrow?
Tomorrow at 3.
Wow, fantastic. So I will. So what time?
3 p.m. my time. That is 2 p.m. your time. 2 p.m. London time.
I'll have to come in the chat and flame and flame you. Both.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. Like, send all the eggplants to James.
Yeah. Oh, excellent! Fantastic.
Yeah, but the link to my channel is in the chat. We're going to talk about being a digital nomad, his perception on minimalism, and of course day game, because he's been day gaming around the world. And I would find it very interesting to get his perspective on, well, the lifestyle he lives and how that reflects on his result with women.
Absolutely, that'll be fantastic. I must tune into that, because it seems. I mean, he's having a great. Well, it seems like he's having a great time. He's over in Brazil at the moment. He did catch COVID over there, but
he did.
He got COVID. Yeah, he got the Brazilian variant, but whatever. I mean,
he'll live. He's a tough guy.
Exactly. He is. Fantastic. Well, I look forward to that. So everyone should subscribe to Jack's YouTube channel, because he'll have James Tusk on tomorrow, which is going to be a fantastic interview. I have no doubt. So make sure you watch that. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm looking at pulling it back to about 3 2 to 3 live streams a week. So I'll probably look to come back on Wednesday. Are you around again this week, Jack, to do another one of these?
I can.
Or do you need to have a look?
I can do Wednesday and Thursday. We'll see.
Okay, all right. Well, look out, because we may well do Wednesday and Thursday then of these Art of Seduction breakdowns, and because what I'm looking to do is maybe pull back on the live streams a bit, because actually feedback from people in the subscribers, people were saying maybe 5 a week is overdoing it a little bit, and I kind of feel that as well. So what I might do is pull back a bit and do some static videos or clips in between, and make the live streams a little bit more special, if you like. So yeah, anyway, so look out for that. We will likely be back on Wednesday to discuss Art of Seduction further. Beyond that, today is the last day that you can get onto the DMs on Demand course by Fresh and Fit, Myron Gaines and Fresh CEO. It's a fantastic course. It teaches you all about basically how to pimp your Instagram so that you can get with the high quality girls and even the low quality girls, if that's your cup of tea, on Instagram. And to be honest, Instagram is becoming the preeminent dating app these days. And now that we are in lockdown, most of the action, or a lot of places are in lockdown, a lot of the action is happening online. So this is really valuable skill set to learn. And the other thing to say as well is that even if you don't meet girls online, even if you meet them in real life, the likelihood is they're going to say at some point, let me see your Instagram, because they want to check you out. They want to see, they want to see if you're a decent guy. They want to see what your social vibe is like and everything. So having a good Instagram page, really, really key, and will continue to be key as we go forward, into the summer and into the years ahead, indeed. So I'd highly recommend this course. It closes tonight. That's the link. I'll stick the link in the description below as well. So do get on board with that also. And just hit subscribe to the channel.
Hit the like.
And hit the like. Yeah, give us a like, give us a comment, etc., etc. Well, on that note, we will see you again probably on Wednesday. Thanks, Jack, for coming along. And
thank you for having me.
See the guys later on. Bye-bye.
See you soon.